And you know that, and they have cost us blood and treasure. And it's Israel doing it, General Clark. Be a patriot. Be a patriot. Stand up for America, not for Israel. I'm not going to go to another war for Israel. We're not going to spend trillions more for Israel. You think Israel is called all of America anti-Semites. 85% of us don't want this war. And then you come in and go, you dirty anti-Semite Americans. You owe us more war. You owe us trillions of dollars. We are beloved Israel. We want endless wars.
This was not a normal disagreement. What you're seeing here is a direct challenge to authority, not just to an individual, but to the entire framework through which this conflict is usually discussed. Because when someone openly questions loyalty, credibility, and motive at the same time, the debate stops being about policy. It becomes about legitimacy. And what follows reveals exactly how fragile that legitimacy can be under pressure.
We're not looking at this through the lens of fact. We're looking at this through the lens of how can we look at this in the most negative way so we don't support attacks on the regime. Second of all, this constant thing about Israel is the one that wants this war. We have all conceded and acknowledged that Israel does for obvious reasons. You're talking about, you take Israel and you take the IRGC, you take this terrorist regime that has enshrined an eschatological vision to eliminate Israel in its charter and has repeatedly acted on that vision. Any sane country in the world, whether it was US or Israel, would obviously want to protect itself. So you're talking about a liberal democracy that seeks safety and protection of its own people, and you're talking about a terrorist state that wants to eliminate that state. And so to even look at this in any other lens is just to be out of touch with reality. You talk about Israel doing these strikes on Hezbollah, when Hezbollah is the one that is throwing its rockets into Israel. You talk about its strikes on the Houthis. Think about this. The regime created Hezbollah as a second IRGC to station it in the closest border to Israel for the sole purpose of eliminating Israel and creating a second Islamic Republic in Lebanon. Now, you want to say that in response to that, Israel should just bend over and do nothing? Of course, Israel wants this war because it is.
Come on! How much more can Israel do?
It is
endless goddamn war because of Israel. Can I respond to this utter rubbish, this garbage Israeli propaganda?
Anti-Semitism is a mind virus, and you've lost your mind. Okay, so just be quiet.
Yeah. Anti-Semitism. Blah 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 blah. We've heard that garbage over and over to shield Israel from criticism. We're not going to take it anymore. You call the whole country anti-Semites. You think Israel is called all of America anti-Semites. 85% of us don't want this war. And then you come in and go, you dirty anti-Semite Americans, you owe us more war. You owe us trillions of dollars. We are beloved Israel. We want endless wars.
One question for you, Cenk. One question for you. What percentage of Germans were anti-Semites? How
does that have to do with this? The real fascists are Israel.
Is that really a gotcha?
You want to ask me what percentage of Israel are fascists? Unfortunately, the percentage is over 50%.
You know what the point is, Cenk? The point is that it is a mind virus.
Can I actually answer any of this garbage that they're putting out there?
Can you stop interrupting her, please?
You're very rude.
You're a very rude
interrupting her. She's gone on for 10 minutes.
At this point, the discussion stops being orderly. Competing claims begin colliding faster than they can be resolved.
How long do you think you went on, sir?
Okay.
Let me, Cenk, I'll give you a brief right of reply there, and then I want to go to the general.
So, guys, this is a total illusion. The country starting all the wars in the Middle East is Israel, not Iran. The ones that have the religious ideology of taking over the Middle East is Israel. They call it Greater Israel. It's a patch on their uniform. It's a map in their Knesset. They're trying, and their cabinet members say, we're going for Greater Israel. Greater Israel is most of the Middle East. The reason why knocking out their so-called nuclear program wasn't enough for these warmongers is because they want every country in the Middle East defenseless so Israel can attack and take more land. And have they actually attacked and taken more land? Yes, they currently have 53% of Gaza. They say they're never going to give back Golan Heights. They keep talking about how Israel should exist. Israel already exists, already has nukes, and is super dangerous with those nukes. They already have Iron Dome. They already have the greatest military in the Middle East. It's the Palestinians who don't exist because the Israelis won't allow them. The Israelis are doing a fascist a greater Israel project, and our press won't talk about it, even though the Israelis talk about it nonstop. We've shown video after video on the Young Turks of how they're going for greater Israel. And the idea that Iran is taking over their neighbors, they haven't taken over any neighbors. Israel keeps taking land while our press keeps lying to you and pretending that Israel's the victim when they are the aggressor, and they don't do it with their own money and they don't do it with their own troops. They force America to spend trillions of dollars and lose American soldiers for Israel. 85% of this country does not want it. When you hear this propaganda telling you, no, Israel wants it.
Now the argument shifts. Instead of reacting, he begins constructing a broader explanation.
And if Israel doesn't get what it wants, we're going to call all of you anti-Semites. All you Americans are anti-Semites unless you give Israel $330 billion, spend $8 trillion on the global war on terror, and we want another war and another war. And then they pretend Iran wants endless war. Israel is making us pay for their endless war. Don't listen to the liars. Stand up for the American people.
You've made the
not
point.
The Israeli people. I'm looking at this propaganda. Now she's talking about how the Iraq war was a great idea.
You made your point, Cenk.
And how we're going to be greeted as liberators. That's what they told us in Iraq. No, the Iranian people also do not want to be bombed. That is an Israeli lie.
Okay, we're running out of time. I just want you've actually reminded me, and I want to come to Dave Smith quickly for this, then go to the general. Tucker Carlson interviewed the US ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, this week. And Mike Huckabee said something that managed to get condemnation from pretty much every other country in the region, because he said this.
This particular area that we're talking about now, Israel, is a land that God gave through Abraham to a people that he chose. It was a people, a place, and a purpose. We can look at it that way. Christian Zionism, I want to go back because that's where we started on this.
I'm not going to let you off on this because you have said it 3 times that God gave this land to this people. What does that mean? Does Israel have the right to that land? Because you're appealing to Genesis. You're saying that's the original deed.
It would be fine if they took it all.
This introduces a historical and structural dimension that reframes the entire exchange.
Take it all, Dave, was the US ambassador to Israel.
Oh yeah, I'm so glad you played that clip. I'm about to do a whole show on breaking down that interview. I think one of the things that's so, I mean, aside from the fact that it's just like how insane and what a religious fundamentalist you have to be to believe that God gave Iraq to Netanyahu or something like that. But what's really wild about this, as I'm sure the general can back up, that since at least the 1970s, the official U.S. position has been that we support 67 borders and that we ultimately want a Palestinian state. The U.S. is officially, not that we're going to do anything about any of that, but we're officially against the settlement expansions in the West Bank. And here you have the U.S. ambassador to Israel. I mean, it sure seems like he's the Israeli ambassador, if you ask me, but his title is he's the U.S. ambassador to Israel, just saying because of his religious beliefs that he would be absolutely fine with Israel not just taking the West Bank and Gaza and the Golan Heights as they have since 1967, but evidently, Piers, taking huge swaths of Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, and for anybody who does not believe that God promised Iraq to Netanyahu, that is just insanity. And then you do notice on this panel how a lot of people beat up on the mullahs for being religious extremists, and like, I got no beef with you on that. It certainly is true that they are. But as Cenk was pointing out, the level of extreme religious fanaticism that drives policy, both U.S. policy toward Israel and Israeli policy at the top of their government there, really is something to behold.
But the discussion doesn't end there. It expands into official policy and ideology.
We're not as secular and as one might believe. And I just want to say, and then I'll shut up for the rest of the panel, but I do got to say, man, Piers, as I know you've seen all the time, you know, this thing where like if we start arguing that we shouldn't have war in Iran, then the response that we get is like, oh, you must secretly love the Ayatollah or something like that. The only reason you're doing this is because you want to protect that regime. This is like the lowest IQ, most bad faith form of political argumentation. And, people did say the same thing about people like you, Piers, and evidently people like you, General Clark, which I was unaware of, who opposed the war in Iraq. You were protecting Saddam Hussein or spreading Saddam talking points. Over the last couple years, Piers, isn't it amazing just on your show? I love Vladimir Putin, and I love Hamas, and I also love Iran, and I guess I love the Houthis, but actually I'm just like a Jewish libertarian from Brooklyn who doesn't want to see more people get killed and my country get bankrupted. That's really the truth of this. And for all of you guys, your response is always, excuse me, no interrupting, little girl. And for all of you guys, listen, again, this is my.
If you don't want my opinion, don't invite me on.
Let me come to the general. General, before I come to you for the final word, because you deserve the final.
You talked more than me, General.
Now another voice enters, introducing institutional perspective and contradiction.
That's a very fun. I mean, Dave makes a very good point. I remember being called a Saddam apologist because I thought the illegal war in Iraq was an atrocity that should never have been waged. And I've similarly been called an anti-Semite because I think that the Israeli government went way too far in Gaza. All of these things are preposterous, and they're a deliberate attempt to stifle freedom of speech and genuine opinion. I think it's a great shame. I've known Cenk and Dave for quite a long time now. I've never heard a moment of anti-Semitism from either of them. And to say that is what motivates them is a hatred of Jewish people is completely preposterous. Well, hang on, Elegant. I've got to. We run out of time. I just want to say that
about Cenk, that's very disingenuous.
No, it's not. He's not anti-Semitic.
Nah, Cenk is a big problem.
He has a big problem with the Israeli government. Let's not get into it.
Doing insults. Let General Clark talk.
If somebody can look, okay, for another show, but Elika, if you want to go away and find me evidence of Cenk Uygur saying anything which indicates a hatred of Jewish people, that's fine. If you want to find me evidence where he says he hates Jewish people,
you want to talk about an Israeli point of view?
Show me evidence.
My existence offends you. And I'm the person who's a bigot.
No,
You're the bigot.
I didn't say that.
Let General Clark
I said your existence is the evidence.
Okay,
you literally said that.
I'm going to wrap things up.
What makes this exchange so significant is not simply the disagreement itself, but the structure of how the arguments unfold. Throughout the debate, you can observe a clear transition from factual claims to emotional accusations, and finally to questions of credibility and authority. This progression reveals something deeper about how modern political debates operate. Initially, the argument begins with familiar positions. Each side presents its interpretation of events, supported by its own logic and assumption. But as the discussion intensifies, the focus gradually shifts. Instead of debating only facts, participants begin questioning each other's motivations, intentions, and legitimacy. This is a critical turning point. Because once credibility becomes the central issue, the debate is no longer just about what is true, it becomes about who the audience trusts. What ultimately stands out is how authority is challenged and defended in real time. Statements are not simply accepted because of who says them, they are evaluated, questioned, and sometimes openly rejected. This dynamic is essential to understanding how public opinion forms not through isolated facts, but through the interaction between competing narratives. And this is why debates like this matter, not because they provide immediate answers, but because they reveal the underlying mechanisms through which arguments succeed or fail. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. Stay tuned for more in-depth analysis and real debate breakdowns.